My dear elegant ladies, welcome to a new video. Ladies, I want to share with you today a story about Carolyn Kennedy Bessette because she had an incredible transformation that we don't speak enough about. After all, she was able to enter the toughest circles of high society, get the most eligible bachelor in town. But what did she do exactly? And there's so much to say about her story that as I'm gonna start my day today and get ready with you, I will tell the story because I'm gonna share some strategies that Carolyn did that I want you to take note of. Okay, a quick glance on the room that I'm in. And now I'm gonna open the curtains. Let's see this beautiful day, how it looks like. By the way, ladies, I consulted with Tina Hill, who runs the Ultimate Carolyn Bessette Facebook group. I think it's called Ultimate Carolyn. Anyway, I'm linking it below, so go check it out after this video. But she helped me with the research in order to get the story correct. So thank you, Tina, so much for helping me with the research of this video. Ladies, I'm just gonna jump into the shower because that's the first thing I do when I wake up. But obviously, you're not gonna come with me to the shower. That would be strange. But let me just show you. This is a little button that you press because you see, my shower is like this. Everybody can see when you're having a shower unless you pull that down. All right, shower done. Hair is not done. I'm gonna actually go to get it professionally blow dried because this is an activity I really don't enjoy doing myself. But I'm gonna apply some moisturizer first. But anyway, ladies, let me start with the story of today because we really need to understand how Carolyn was able to, enter one of the most elite families in the world. So let's start from the beginning. Let's start with the day when she was born, because that was an important day. And she was born on January 7th in 1966. Let me check. Yes, I was right. 1966, January 7th, and that means she was a Capricorn. If you are interested in astrology and you're curious what her other signs were, her moon was Cancer and her rising was Aquarius. Other fun facts, because I know it's always interesting to know how tall somebody was, but Carolyn was actually quite tall, 175 centimeters, which equals about 5'9". I myself am 170, which is 5'7". So Carolyn grew up in Connecticut, and if you don't know where that is, that's in the eastern part of the US. And her mom, she was an administrator in the New York City public school system, and her father, he was actually just a cabinet maker. She had a very typical middle-class background in America, didn't come from wealth whatsoever. However, she made it into the top inner circle of US. So I'm just gonna put some clothes on now, blow dry my hair, and I'll be back. I did tell you that, she was just this regular girl coming from a regular background. And, the middle class, it can be anything from really like lower end of middle class to more higher end. I mean, one thing that I do know is that Carolyn did live in an upper kind of class area there in Connecticut. So I don't really know exactly how wealthy or not her parents were, but they were qualified as a middle-class family. But I do know that her parents did get divorced when she was quite young. Not sure how that affected Carolyn, but I can imagine that couldn't have been easy on her. But needless to say, Carolyn, she was a popular girl in school. I think it's thanks to her looks, to tell you the truth, because I think she was even voted at some point to be the kind of high school's most beautiful person or something in those lines. I mean, good for her, ladies. But I think that this also does show that she probably was more a popular girl in school, because when I have looked into her background, you can see that she was actually a networker by heart. Like, that seemed to come naturally for her, so she was kind of the outgoing one in school that everybody knew about and, hang out with the cool kids. But one thing that I find a little bit strange? That's the fact that Carolyn's parents, they didn't really appreciate the fact that she was such a social butterfly. In fact, they actually changed her school. They transferred her to another high school once so that she would focus more on her studies rather than yapping around with everybody. That's such a shame. What a big mistake parents do. I wish they would understand that the fact that she was so outgoing and such a great networker, it actually led to her big success later in life. Anyway, ladies, so after she graduated high school in Greenwich, she went on to study elementary education, which she got a degree in, at the Boston's University school of education. But of course, even at university, she was popular. She worked her way into social circles. I think she even dated at some point the star of the school's ice hockey team, who actually later became a very successful and famous professional NHL player. And as you can notice, ladies, Carolyn never really dated any average Joes. She was picky with her men, as you can see. But of course, ladies, she knew that she was popular in school. She knew that she could be picky. And that does help with the confidence and not to be desperate for, I don't know, for the type of guys that we sometimes waste our time with. Carolyn certainly did not waste her time with anybody. And I like the boundaries that she was setting for herself. And that's very important for us to learn from. Because it's easy to settle for less sometimes when we know that we should be settling for more. Okay, I brought something to drink, but since it's not sponsored, I'm not going to show you what it is. But don't worry, it's not a beer. It's actually green tea and honey. Iced tea type of thing. Okay, where was I? So when Carolyn, she finished college, she went on to do a little bit of modeling, but unfortunately that didn't turn out to be very profitable, so she kind of stopped with modeling and just decided to get a real job. So she got a job offered as a sales girl in a mall in Massachusetts. Massachusetts. Did I say it right? I have problems with pronunciation, I'm so sorry. Okay, so yeah, she got the job, ladies, at Calvin Klein. She was actually a very good worker. She looked perfectly put together every day at work. She made an effort, and she also got some good sales in because of her natural outgoing personality. What happened then? Well, she got promoted to go to New York and actually work for Calvin Klein's headquarters in New York doing public relations. I think the exact title was Director of Publicity. So can you imagine, after being just this regular sales girl in a mall, she got this great promotion because actually she wasn't just a cute face, she was also a good and strategic worker. I'm feeling like maybe taking a little dip into the pool. So when she arrived to New York, she was placed in Manhattan, but like in a very upscale part of Manhattan. And ladies, this is really important to think about because you have heard me say so many times how location is everything. The reason for that is because you're always going to meet a more high caliber type of people if you are in an area where they oftentimes go to. And the reason for that is simple, ladies. If you want to be around high caliber people, then location is everything. You want to be where they are. And in Carolyn's case, this gave her some opportunities that would later change her life. But you know what, actually, she didn't have to wait too long to have that day happen when something really big would come and just change everything. That day was the day when Susan Sokol stepped into Carolyn Bessette's life. So you might be wondering now, okay, but who is this Susan person? So she was this traveling sales coordinator at Calvin Klein. Susan was incredibly drawn to kind of the style and essence of Carolyn because I personally believe that this whole kind of confident, chic, classic look of hers just came very natural to her, and she really owned that look. But it's also like a look that made her become kind of discovered at her workplace by Susan. So of course, if you take Carolyn's personal branding into account, Susan saw that, okay, this person is perfect to use as Calvin Klein's representation facing Calvin Klein's VIP clients, which Carolyn would end up doing as part of a job. And please, ladies, understand how important personal branding is. Carolyn's personal branding, I believe, in a way came quite natural to her. She had this kind of minimalistic, timeless, chic fashion style and always wearing things that made her look her best, but very uncomplicated, not overthinking it. Less is more type of thing. So you see, Carolyn went from being a regular sales girl to work in public relations department at Calvin Klein to be promoted to look after the high-profile clients of the company. And at that time, they had many because Calvin Klein was one of the it brands of the 90s. I'll tell you one thing though, is that I know that Carolyn did befriend Calvin Klein's wife at the time, and they became really great buddies, and that also did help Carolyn being further promoted and getting special perks. This is why, ladies, I'm telling you, networking is essential if you want to get ahead in life. Change of clothes once again because I'm actually checking out very shortly, so I need to get a move on. I'm going to my next destination. But okay, to continue the story, ladies. So Carolyn got to meet many high-profile clients like Diane Sawyer, I think one of them was. Oh, and also Annette Bening. However, you know who was maybe the most important VIP client that Carolyn got to meet because of her job, because of her role? John F. K. Jr. At that time, he was the hottest, the most eligible bachelor probably in the world. Have a look at him. Ladies, wasn't he handsome? Totally my type. So imagine one day you arrive at your work and your boss tells you, well, today you're going to meet John F. K. Jr. and you are going to give him a private viewing of the latest collection. Enjoy! You feel like you probably hit the jackpot. Not because Carolyn was there desperado waiting for a man or something like that. No, she was actually already in a relationship. In fact, she was dating a Calvin Klein model. Again, not too shabby. She was never dating any average Joes. So because she was taken and just generally speaking being this kind of aloof, confident, kind of unbothered type of woman, she caught JFK Jr.'s attention because she was not just like the other girls, the girls who just throw themselves onto him. She was different. She was not really interested or fairly impressed by him. He did show interest in her, but for her it was like, sorry, not interested. And as you know how human nature works, this made him want her even more. While every other girl in town was begging to be with him, she didn't need him. She had her own thing going for her. She was already taken. And that, my dear elegant ladies, is the recipe for success. When you live a life when you don't have to play games, when you are naturally hard to get because you have a life, because you have friends, because you have things going for yourself, that's when the best bachelors in town are going to want to be with you. Not when you're just sitting all day long reading books about how to be hard to get. Do you see what I mean? Okay, but I didn't tell you the detail that actually he himself was already in a relationship. He was back then dating Daryl Hannah, but he broke up with her because he's a gentleman. He's really not the cheating kind. And that was actually quite interesting because I was a little bit curious. I wanted to see, okay, what information can we dig up on him? And from sources very close to him, they have said that he was always a very faithful man because his father had been cheating so much on his mother and that he didn't want to cause his woman the same type of embarrassment his mom had to go through, and that really struck a chord with him. So he just never wanted to treat his woman in such a way, which I really do admire him for, because he could easily have been the cheater of the block if he wanted to. Women were throwing themselves on him. Anyway, after he broke up with Daryl Hannah, he and Carolyn actually started dating because he couldn't let go of the thought of being with her, so he was just pursuing her. And in the end, she gave in. Okay, but now comes a little plot twist, because so they were dating, but for many different reasons. One of the reasons being that Carolyn, she was just never a big fan of being in the public eye, and throughout the time that she was with JFK Jr., it made her always feel very uncomfortable. So they kept their relationship very private, and they didn't actually make it public until, unfortunately, Jackie O, well, JFK Jr.'s mother, passed away. Only then did they actually announce that they were in a relationship. It took about 4 years until they got married. And in 1996, they finally did it. They got married and they had a very private and intimate wedding in the Cumberland Islands in the States. They got married in this really lovely, small, tiny church in the middle of nowhere. They actually had to take the guests there in like jeeps and go a little bit of off-roading to get to this location, because for them, they valued privacy so much. They just wanted to make sure that no paparazzis were gonna get there. And indeed, they seem to have a very beautiful wedding from the small bits and pieces that we got to see. But what really made the headlines for their wedding was, of course, the beautiful gown that Carolyn was wearing. And some might say that, okay, why was she wearing such a boring and simple thing on such a big day? And I personally disagree, because for me, that would be the ultimate wedding gown. If I decide to do my big wedding one day, I will definitely choose something in those lines rather than having, you know, the traditional cupcake type of dress. Or at least that's how I feel for now. Making this video about Carolyn. I just loved that wedding look so much. And then after the wedding, I mean, they did have a great marriage. They had loads of ups and downs, unfortunately, some of them witnessed by the media and the public. I do believe that they loved each other very much. I think that Carolyn, she was a very kind of strong-willed, powerful woman in her own sense, and she was able to handle a man like JFK Jr. But of course, it came with a price, and that was so difficult for her because she didn't want the attention. If you try and look for, you know, Carolyn Bessette-Kennedy interviews, you're not going to find much because she was just so low-key, and that's something I do admire of her. I think that's I think that's nice. Now, their story, unfortunately, had a very tragic end in 1999 because that was the day when Carolyn, her sister Lauren, and of course her husband, JFK Jr., took a plane and crashed, and all of them, unfortunately, passed away. It is very, very sad, and yeah, I wish there was a happy ending in the end, but sometimes that's how life is, unfortunately. Their plane ended up in bad weather, and JFK Jr. was the pilot. There are some rumors speculating that it's because Carolyn wanted to get her hair done, so they left so late, and then it ended up in this bad weather, although they knew that it was coming. So I just think it's all very unfortunate and all very sad, but their legacy still lives on today. I want to tell you one thing, ladies. There are 4 things you need to learn from this video today. Number 1 is your career can open some incredible doors for you. So try and elevate your career best way possible. You don't necessarily have to have a very high-end academic type of job. Look at Carolyn, she was just a sales girl at Calvin Klein, and then she climbed the ladder within the company. But think outside of the box. Think where you can meet the elite. And the workplace is one fantastic place where you can meet them in an organic way and get the opportunity to change your life overnight. I do have some more places of where you can meet the elite in my free cheat sheet. So go to millionaireplaces.com to download this free cheat sheet so that you can meet more of the affluent crowd. Takeaway number 2, please ladies, do work on your personal brand. Carolyn's personal brand was naturally for her. She was always this classic, you know, put together, chic woman. And you know what? Not everybody is a Carolyn, but you can consciously become a Carolyn. You can actually make that effort. You can polish yourself up just the way I'm teaching here on my platform, but also in my finishing school. But 3, network, 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 network. Everywhere you go. If you are an introvert, try to step out of your comfort zone. Become a little bit more outgoing when you meet people. Make that effort. It's going to take you so far in life. I don't want you to just hold back and think that life is going to happen without those skills. And lastly, number 4, please ladies, withhold your time. Don't throw yourself at men. Truly, even if it feels difficult, even if you really don't want to miss out on that guy, please, still don't make yourself so available. Let him work for it. You are going to see how it's going to pay off. 99% of the times it's going to pay off if he is the guy for you. If he's not the guy for you, he's not going to make that effort. Ladies, that was a bit of tough love from my end. I want you to hop over to my next video where we're talking about Kate Middleton's transformation story. It's a little bit similar to Carolyn's, but you're going to find out exactly what the differences are in that video. Now ladies, enjoy that video because I will see you there.